Hey guys, coming at you with another episode of Tampa Bay Real Producers Podcast. This, of course, is the podcast for real producers, by real producers, and with none other than Tampa Bay's real producers, such as one of my good friends now, since we've started this platform over the last couple of years, Mr. Bowtie Bobby himself. Bobby Paolini is in the house, man. How you doing?
Awesome, man. Grateful to be here.
Yeah,
Grateful for you, our relationship, what you're doing with the Tampa Bay Real Producers, and it's just an honor to be a part of it.
Dude, I am really excited to dive into your story because I know a little bit of it, and I'm excited for the people who might not know who you are and what your background is all about and just the type of person that you are. I think by the end of this episode, people are going to fall in love with you just like I did, Bobby, so it's going to be wonderful. Looking
I've
forward
been married
to it.
for almost 20 years, but we'll see how it goes.
To a wonderful woman, by the way. Shout out as well.
Indeed.
And in a beautiful family. So Bobby has been featured as a rising star. I guess it was like 2019, somewhere within that first year of when we launched Tampa Bay Real Producers, that we did a spotlight on Bobby. He's also had been on multiple panels now over the years with Tampa Bay Real Producers. Those of you who know, we do a monthly panel at Whiskey Cake on the third Thursday, and Bobby has shared his expertise on many different topics. He actually has his book right there if you want to quickly hold it up. Bobby is the author of a book called Good Talk, Great Sales. I'm sure he'll elaborate more on that. But why don't we just start a little bit, Bobby, with your background. So for people who might not know you, did you grow up in this area? If not, how you got yourself to Tampa eventually, and eventually how you got started in real estate?
Oh, the quick story of birth till now would be moving every year of my life pretty much from the time I was just in elementary school till I was about freshman in high school. Landed in Dunedin, Florida. Graduated from Dunedin High School. Falcons. Go Falcons.
Nice.
Falcon Power. Been here ever since. And come from a background of restaurants and hospitality. Mm-hmm. And probably third generation restaurants, grocery stores. And just really got my professional perspective from hospitality, which is giving, which is adding value. Did something similar to that in the indoor tanning industry, believe it or not, in sunny Florida.
That explains that glow you always have, huh?
Yeah.
That tanning background.
I'm not sure it made my hair fall out or not, but that's neither here nor there. Met a lot of people, learned a lot of things, came out of my shell, and got into real estate around 2015.
So why were you moving so much growing up?
My parents were being in the restaurant business. They were climbing the restaurant ladder, which is, usually franchises, corporate relocations. And so they were just following the money to different and better areas, and started in Buffalo, New York back in 1979 when Bowtie Bobby was born, and then just kept finding our way more and more south. And we've been here since 1992. So
eventually they moved to Dunedin for restaurants, and we're running a restaurant there. And then you kind of finally found like a home and stayed local to the area, huh?
Yes, but I will say that there was a time when my dad had a long talk with me and basically tried to tell me or told me not to stay in the restaurant business. He said what it does to your time and the family. And he goes, Bobby, I know you want to, follow in my footsteps and do all these things that I've taught you. But he goes, just keep your eyes open, because you'd be better served not to give what you have to give in the restaurant business. And look what happened from there.
Yeah, that's interesting. Were you thinking that you would go in the restaurant business before that talk?
I was, actually.
Yeah.
Restaurant franchises, concepts, starting off managing them. My first job ever was at a restaurant. I was the general manager of one in Eastlake, Florida, Palm Harbor, when I was just 19 years old. So leading people, adding value, being creative with value and service, that was my thing. But my dad made a very good point. And moving and seeing the time he put into it. Of course, real estate, it requires a similar amount of time in the beginning.
Good thing real estate is such a 9-to-5 business.
Or less. Just kidding. But it was a blessing in disguise. And I've been able to share what I've learned from him and through life, through real estate. And it's been impactful for me and for a lot of my customers.
So it's funny because I do know some people as well in the real estate industry, and they always talk about how it's one of the toughest businesses to run, really. Even statistically speaking, if you look at like blogs written about like various business industries and so forth, margins aren't supposed to be that much tighter. And, there's just there's a little smaller room for error, I guess, in terms of making it profitable and making it work. So then you mentioned earlier that you opened up a tanning, was that a franchise?
No, created it myself. The concept, the style. I tanned through high school, and I just wanted to create another value add.
Watching Jersey Shore a lot or something, and just kind of
Gym Tan Laundry. Are you kidding?
Makes sense.
I don't have a tattoo of it. I don't.
That was the inspiration of those days.
Yeah,
got you.
And it was actually good for business.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And so, what year did you end up getting licensed, and what drove you to the real estate world?
Started studying in 2014, and got licensed probably the very last week of that year, and started January 2nd, 2015.
Okay. And what was it about real estate that attracted you? Like, what got you down that path and knew it was time to get out of the tanning business and into the real estate side?
I like the options. It's more than just find a buyer, find a seller.
Yeah.
It's investing, it's residual, it's development, it's creativity far beyond, I think, even the restaurant business outside of dishes themselves. And I like that factor. And now you could build leverage on residual income and rental properties. But I just wanted to start with service and see what happened from there.
Made sense. So did you find that you had immediate traction? Because I think one of the things that's common is a lot of people who start in real estate don't see immediate success. It takes a while for most people to get traction, to learn their way, to find their niche. What was that first year or so like for you?
That is a very good question, because I will fast forward and say in the end, when I was at the brokerage I was at, I got Rookie of the Year. And but funny story, the first 6 months I had only sold 2 houses. And I thought, wow, what is going on? And I had a self-reflection that I wanted to not just be another agent. I wanted to add real value. I wanted to separate myself. I wanted to deserve an opportunity. It helped me with my confidence, but it was also something that I could lean on and attract with. So I made some changes. I was reading a lot of books, thank God. And my first 6 months, I had sold 2 houses, and the next 6 months, I sold another 20. So that was the beginning of, I wanted to share what I had learned, because my process was very unorthodox, and I'm no flamboyant seller. That's why I dress like this, because visualization is more than half of communication. So that was really it. It was being patient, but taking the right steps.
So let's dive into that a little bit. So I think it would be definitely a smart tip for all people, especially if they're new, to figure out what that process is going to look like for them, and how they're going to see some sort of result like that. Because to go from 2 in 6 months to 22 in 6 months, that's a pretty drastic change, a pretty drastic difference in results. What are some of the things that you think created it, and what drove that?
Well, I will say it wasn't anything I did that somebody else could do the same thing and have the same results. It was me just finding what I was willing to do and what worked for me, my personality, who I was. And it was really just kind of, I don't want to say the art of, but it's more like the art of being yourself. And what you're willing to do, you will do. And if you make a process out of it and you're persistent and consistent, then you have to get better. You have to grow. It's like the compound effect, and everything is gradual until it's sudden. But then you have to have a little patience as well. So I always tell people, find what in the industry you're willing to do, what makes sense to you, and just perfect your craft. And you'll start to see the results, and you'll evolve naturally.
It's interesting. So would you say that even though the first 6 months in business, you mentioned you did 2 deals, were you doing, in your mind, the right things during those 6 months? And then the results of those things that were compounding, you mentioned consistency, right? Did it just take some time before you started to see the results from that, which didn't show up until the back half of the year? Or would you view it as there was some real changes in my habits and in certain things that I was doing that created that change? Like, how would you, what would be the distinction?
The latter.
Okay.
It was I thought I was doing, everyone thinks they're doing the right thing. And it wasn't so much tempo that I picked up, as much as it was adding a little bit to every aspect of the real estate process, not just, getting out there so people can see you. See what, right? It was, what moments matter in a transaction? What's important in the deal, to the customer, and who is it all about? It was really a perspective change, like a philosophy. And I think once I created a philosophy and read The Miracle Morning, and I had a starting point to get better, hence the good talk part, the TALK, I could easily and repeatedly be the same way in every transaction and still get better. So it was all about, I wanted to make sure I was always speaking the truth. If I had to learn something and I screwed up, so be it. But I was going to be honest with myself and honest with my customers. Attention. You want to attract attention, but you also have to and must give attention. And it's not always about what your previous intentions are. Listening was important. Oh my gosh, you learned so much. My wife taught me that. But with clients, listening is huge. And not just to have a great transaction, but to win a transaction just by listening. And then kindness, because everybody in real estate, and even if you're not, there's ups and downs every day and in every transaction. And you have to maintain a mindset and an attitude of kindness. And I started to learn how effective that was in the transaction. I was bulletproof Bobby before I was bow tie Bobby, because deals would stay together because you just don't take things personal. And kindness, builds a reputation that people want to work with you. And then that other agent becomes the advocate of your client. So when I put it all together, I was able to kind of get better within that framework.
That's cool. So I didn't realize that, but that's the talk part of the book, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What was T again?
Truth.
Truth.
Attention.
A is action or attention.
Listening.
And kindness. I love it. If you haven't read Bobby's book or even heard of it before, if you were to try to summarize your book, Bobby, in a slogan, maybe it's what you just described, but is there something else you would share that you think would be helpful for somebody who's not aware of it or not familiar with it?
Well, my publisher wanted me to put, and he did, the radically different sales process and business communication skills of top producers. But I would call it the art of being yourself. Everybody understands truth, attention, listening, and kindness. That's why, like in every language, laughter is the same thing. It means the same thing. So find within those parameters what works for you, what you're willing to do, and do it, and evolve, and persist, and get better every day. And the end result is the client is going to get more value. The industry will be saved from AI, which we were laughing about off camera before. If you don't want to be have your jobs taken away with a transaction done by AI, you have to give a real arm's length amount of value from person to person, and you'll be just fine.
Yeah, if you had to define Bobby, so those of you who might not know Bobby's background, your best year in real estate, just to throw a couple numbers out there, do you remember what that was?
I did about, actually I don't remember, I think it was about maybe 50 some odd units and about 25 million in volume.
Yeah, I know that you were knocking on the door of 30 million in a year that I think when we first featured you was right around that ballpark. What would you describe as like your superpower when it comes to your success in real estate? What do you think is your strong point?
Listening and being bulletproof to the obstacles that come.
So from an outside perspective, as I've gotten to know you a little bit over the last couple of years, and like I said, you've been on a few of our panels now, I feel like one of the unique things that Bobby brings to the table is a authenticness that when you talk to him, you can really feel, right? Like you seem like you take a genuine interest in the people that you meet and that are exposed to you. And I think that's a quality that not everybody has. And I admire you for that. And I'm sure your clients feel the same thing, when you've worked with them and you think about how important it is for most people to sell a home or buy the right home. It's really important that they have that trusting relationship with the person who's supposed to lead them in that journey, right? And so I think Bobby's integrity and his personality, because of what he just described in terms of listening and kindness, it comes across really as an authentic connection. And ultimately, that's hard, I think, for some people to just have, right? It's one of those things where you probably have to work on that if that's not something that you're just naturally good at. But I know also one thing about you is that you seem to be very, studious in a sense of wanting to read a lot of books, grow personally, taking whatever you can from outside sources to try to apply that into your life. Has that always been your way, would you say? Has that been something that you've been more intentional about over the last few years?
I wish.
What are your thoughts on that?
I wish. I didn't really realize the power of trying to learn something new every day until I started. But then ironically, you realize how much you don't know the more you start to learn. But even the genuineness, and I appreciate that, that's very humbling, that people feel, even customers tell me all the time, they're like, I don't know why, but I just trust you. And there's some reality to that. It's not smoke and mirrors, but when you make the decision and you look in the mirror and you say enough is enough and you just decide to be honest and truthful, then the facade goes away. The background reel goes away and you can truly be yourself and authentic. And I guess it comes through and other human beings can sense that. So I feel like every human being can do it. Every person, if they just sell out and make a decision of who they want to be and how they want to do things and stick to that, they'll have the same effect.
Yeah.
That's all I try to do.
It's also interesting to me that in the years that I've known you, you've had different roles within real estate, right? From being an individual producer, I think when we first featured you as a rising star, right? Pretty quickly after that, you were very focused on team building and working as a team leader at the time. I believe you even had a specific promotion and an opportunity where that was your sole focus, was to grow a team. I think recently that's also changed, right? And you stepped back from one of those and started building again on an individual production basis. So I'm curious in terms of how you view your journey over the last couple of years. What have you loved about the different roles you've had? What do you think has been the best fit for you in your experiences so far, and why?
Well, it's all been great and it's all been purposeful. There have been moments within that time that I questioned, my steps, but in the end, every moment prior to this has led to better value to the client. And that's how it's always been. I just wanted to find a place where I can add value and be effective. And a lot of times people agents could be one-dimensional in their thoughts to where they'll encapsulate themselves to a brokerage just because they're there, just because it was the baby chick syndrome, right? Like, you're my first, so I'm just going to stay here. But are they really doing a service to themselves, to their families, to their clients? Maybe. A lot of them are. But if you wonder, if you're that person that wonders, am I? Then I would highly consider delving into where you can be to add more value. And I think when you want answers, you should ask questions. But if you want the truth, you have to make a decision and commit to it. So I've always followed the path to where I could learn, even if it was painful at first. And literally every step has taught me a lot, whether it was coming from as a single agent in a brokerage, whereas it was stumbling, trying to build a team, or it was learning how to manage a massive brokerage, to where it's understanding that it's not about me and I don't need to be famous, and maybe I'm better working in sync with someone else, with another team as a part of the body, and to be able to offer more to other people and agents. Because I have a feel for agents as well. That's why I wrote the book. Real estate changed my life and my family's life. So I know there's a lot of agents out there that deserve that chance, and I'm so grateful that how that perspective came to me. I wrote the book to share that, just to say, look, you don't have to be a door knocking, cold call, sword wielding psychopath to sell real estate. You can just attract, and you don't have to chase. And in the end, the industry is better because of it.
And the book is really made and written for agents, correct?
Absolutely.
I mean, anybody technically who's in sales could definitely benefit from the stuff that Bobby talks about in the book, but from his heart, he wrote it to try to help the industry and help people that are out there. It's maybe another thing that I connected with you on, because that's really what Real Producers is all about as well, is trying to be able to provide value, to the agent community and see if we can help more people become quote unquote real producers through the different, platform that we bring to the table. What would you say, Bobby, has been the most challenging part of your journey so far in real estate? Not that all your problems are over, right? Because I'm sure you'll have more, as we all do, as time moves on. But when you think back now, what was the hardest part of trying to build this business for you, and how did you overcome it?
It wasn't really one particular thing, but it was one understanding that don't let a certain tragic situation alter your course. That was the big aha for me. I was really down on myself for a few mistakes over the years, and it was kind of a waste of time. I should have seen it for what I know it is now. But we're not standing still in our journeys of life. We're either getting better or we're getting worse. So the miracle morning effect of trying to get better every day, in my opinion, or personally, it helps me avoid stagnation to get worse, or to slowly make subtle mistakes every day until it's one big one. But even when mistakes happen or problems happen, look through the obstacle, look through the woe is me, and find the diamond in the rough. And that's the biggest takeaway, because bad things are always going to happen, out of our control completely. But find that philosophy, who you are, how you're going to do it, and let nothing stop you, and try to get better every day.
Yeah, so really it's about, no matter what the obstacle is, we can be grounded if we have that certain core value system, I guess is what I'm trying to wrap it up as, that allows you to have guidance, right, and gives you direction. One of my old mentors I know told me years ago that all obstacles are also an opportunity, right? It's just about how you choose your perspective when you're looking at it. Right. And so for a lot of people, they can face an obstacle and all of a sudden that becomes the big mountain that they just can't think beyond, they can't get around. And the problem is what they focus on rather than the potential of the opportunity to get around it. And I think what you just said aligns with that line of thinking. So I think it's interesting because we all know how challenging real estate can be, and especially for people that there's, in my opinion, two different types of people that sometimes watch these podcast episodes, or that I've been exposed to in real estate. Some that are still trying to get it, right? Trying to make that progress. And sometimes they might look at someone like yourself or someone else who's successful and think, man, how easy is it for that person, right? Because you've made it, quote unquote. And then there's the person who, from the outside world, has already made it, but they've learned a lot of these lessons along the way as far as knowing what it took to get them there. And they realize that the challenges really never stop. It's just different, right?
Exactly. And we're all running different races. But, I don't want this all to be about philosophy, too. I mean, real estate is just as much statistics as it is calculus. Mm-hmm. For example, getting better doesn't just teach you to control yourself and your actions. You're willing to learn things. And when you read books, you learn specific tactics. So in my book, I'm not a guru. I'm not just trying to, make you just change everything and your problems go away. You really have to seek to learn more things. I forgot the author's name. Never Split the Difference. Have you read that book?
Yep. Chris Voss.
Chris Voss, yes. Remember the labeling or the mirroring effect? Mm-hmm. And I saw this from my wife. So just give somebody a tidbit of a conversation, just some sort of nugget to take with them of how this works, and how in a conversation you could subtly get what you want with saying little else. One day, she asked me, my wife, Lika, asked me when I was coming home. And I said, probably around 7:30, 8 o'clock. And all she said was, 7:30, 8 o'clock? That was it. She just repeated the last thing I said. And I said, well, thought about it. Well, actually, I could probably do this and that. Maybe I'll be home around like 6:30. Mm-hmm. She's like, 6:30? That's all she said. She just repeated the last thing I said. And I go, actually, I got some time tomorrow. I can move that off. And I just said, I'll be home at 5. She goes, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Thank you. I'll see you at 5, honey. She's never read the book, by the way. But she
shout out to Lika. That's masterful.
Yes. She is a natural selling machine. So we're talking in conversations, rather than getting emotional and combative, repeating the last thing somebody says because it questions. Like you've had people say, "What did you say?"
Yeah.
Or "Pardon me." Do we always repeat it the exact same way?
Excuse
that we
me?
first said it? No, we alter it because in our minds we want to justify the question. Maybe they didn't hear me, but we don't know. So as human beings, so the point is, it's calculus and statistics. So there are things that we can learn that we don't know that can add value, and certainly we don't know what we don't know. So my goal is to read 2 books a month. So there's action that needs to take place, but that's a great book and a funny story how I had already read the book and Lika did that to me, but it was a very effective thing that when you combined all that with your own philosophy to stay on track, you will add more value to the marketplace and the marketplace will reward you.
It's funny too, because you probably in the moment when you're applying some of these different principles, like Lika's example, you're probably not even realizing it. You're just responding because naturally you respond that way when that's the interaction that you have, right?
100%.
So
I wasn't thinking of the book when she said that.
Of course not,
It was
yeah.
after the fact.
Right, exactly.
So it was all natural, yeah.
To give somebody also just a tip who might still be kind of searching for their niche in real estate, what is your favorite way to drum up business, Bobby, in real estate? Is there a specific lead gen approach? Is there something you've had a lot of success with? What's your go-to strategy if an agent was to say, how do I fill my schedule? How do I get my leads? What do you love to do?
Good question. And yes, but it's a 2-step process, I think, because if you spend all your time doing podcasts talking about people who should, just buy and sell, even if they just did, you might be, beating a dead horse. So, and in the book, I talk about this thing called the now client, because in every market, no matter what it looks like, good, bad, or ugly, there is somebody that should and will be doing business to whatever degree. They might be buying something different. They might look different. They might live somewhere else. It might be a different amount of money. But find who that now client is. What genre of buyers and sellers would benefit from what's going on now? Because someone will.
Yep.
Someone can. So you discover it. So, pro tip for today's market, I think the now client is a downsizer about 60 to 55 to almost 70 years old. Most likely, and I don't have the stats in front of me, they bought their house in the mid to early 90s. Mm-hmm. They've got a ton of equity. They're downsizing to maybe a new build in a nice community, brand new build or whatnot. And in most cases, if their house is in a developed area, they're going to be able to sell it for more than the new house that they're building, maybe moving towards the kids or grandkids. And so it's a downsize to their forever home, selling the legacy home. And they're not worried about interest rates. They're not worried about the market. They're retired. They're not worried about the job market. And then you have to be seen and heard, right? So you want to attract people. You don't want to chase them. You don't want to go to a Better Living for Senior event and chase people around and be pretentious, but you can add value to what you think those people should want to know. You can talk to your own sphere of influence about who they know that fits that concept or that modality and add value to their life or their business and use other vendors to help them so everybody wins. But the key is identifying the now client and then taking action and adding value.
Yeah, I love that idea of the now client. I think that's an easy way to look at success in the business, because I agree with you, no matter what the market is, there's always going to be a now client, but that now client is going to change based on market conditions sometimes, right? Or based on even geographic opportunities. So being wise enough, I would say, to identify who really is the now client in this market. And you just gave an example of it being maybe in this particular market, downsizers. I'm assuming that changes as market flow changes. But then creating a strategy as to how you're going to be in front of those people allows you to not waste your efforts with just blindly throwing stuff against the wall,
right,
and hope that it's going to stick, but actually being strategic about your marketing efforts, your time, and that type, which is obviously our most valuable resource, right? So I love that. It makes sense. Know your now clients, and then do whatever you need to do to be in front of those people. That's a great takeaway. I'd like to spend a few minutes, Bobby, on people who might not again know you, just more about you personally, so that they can get to know who Bobby is. You mentioned your beautiful wife a few minutes ago. I know that one of the things I admire about you is that you seem like maybe you've just put up a great facade, but I don't think it's true. You seem like you really have a great balance in your life, and you have done very well in business, but you have a great family. You're also very involved in like masterminds and organizations and groups. I know just recently you invited me to come to a Christian men's event that you've been running and a part of, I think, for a long time now on Wednesday night. And I was honored and humbled and loved that opportunity. And it was a great group of guys that you had as part of that mastermind. And I know that you're in multiple things like that. So I'd love for you to talk about why it's so important for you to be involved in so many different things. Has that always been your way, or has that just been more of an intentional effort over the last, few years? What do you think is some of your keys to how you've created this kind of well-rounded lifestyle of somebody? At least that's what it looks like from the outside.
Well, another great question, but I think it's kind of the byproduct of a perspective of wanting to give and the actions of always learning new information. You almost overflow with information that you want to share. And on a spiritual level, I was absolutely saved by our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And I can't help but understand that the wealthiest people and whose homes I've sold to the smallest all suffer from, not all, but when they do, they suffer in the same way. And I know who's in charge and who can help them. And I just want to share that to anyone I can, whether it be a client or an agent or a friend, and because it still drives me and helps me, and really is where I want to end up to this day. I mean, my kind of real estate is like a gateway thing into being a pastor and a shepherd to help people understand who they really are, and then that will have a ripple effect in their generations to come, and their friends and their generations to come. And that's kind of like how I would describe myself. Is somebody that wants to be known as the person that could let the other person watching know that anything's possible and that it's worth it. And there's value that just comes back from it. So and again, trying to get better every day, it leads me to want to start those groups. But no, I wasn't born trying to be this fearless leader. In fact, I'm not really a driver. I would consider myself more of an S on the disc formula, and more of a magnet than I am a propeller or a rudder. But it's just speaking truth, right? And getting attention to have some value, to be here for a reason, listening to understand what people need and what they're going through, and offering some genuine kindness so that they know they're heard, and connecting them with other people so that problems can be solved. And I've been also grateful and honored to be nominated as the connector for the Tampa Bay Real Producers.
That's right. I forgot to mention that, but Bobby was nominated.
And again, not something I set out. I woke up one day and I want to be a connector. But if you blaze a trail, you'll leave a path, I guess they say, and that's really the reason why I do all that.
You've mentioned your faith. I know that's one of the things that we've connected on as well, as it's been something that I know is very important to me as well. And I'm curious, when did that become a driver for you? Has that been something from an early age? Is that more of a recent, pivot at all in your life as far as how that's been? Because I bring this up because I know for you, it seems like it's a real compass that guides a lot of your decisions, right? And a lot of things that you've done seem to be driven by how important your faith is to you. You want to elaborate all on that?
Absolutely. I've always been a believer, right? But just like a believer, just to do good things and what my parents told me. And my mom always kept faith in the family, and my dad too, actually. And we went to church. But as you know, as well as I do, and maybe other people listening, when you're saved, when you find, our Lord and Savior that you have been knowing of your whole life, everything changes. And that happened in the October of 2015. But when I realized just believing in the crucifixion of Jesus was not enough, because when both my parents actually died in 2005. My dad passed away of brain cancer on my 26th birthday, and my mom died of Lou Gehrig's disease 5 days later, or really a broken heart. And then I had turned around and seen my wife of 1 year at the time. We had no kids, and my two little brother and sisters, who were minors, whom we later adopted as our children. Everything changes at that point. You feel like you're in a room, or I felt like I was in a room. I entered a room, and I looked back, and the door was gone. Right? So now what do you do? And I just spent the next 10 years wallowing in my pity. Just drifting like a wandering generality, just trying to be funny to keep from crying, trying to figure out what everything meant. And I really went through the struggle. A lot of ups and downs, and my wife was and is a saint to have dealt with a lot of that. But in October of 2015, everything changed. A big prayer was answered, and the Lord got my attention, and I've been on this path ever since then.
It's awesome. I remember that was part of the story you told me when we first met at the Center Club, when we did a little magazine article for your Rising Star feature. And my father also passed when I was 19, and so there were certain things that we connected on about that. But it's very powerful, and one of the things that I've told you is that we're going to be starting a Lives for Christ platform and another podcast that I can't wait to have you on to dive into this particular topic even deeper, because we don't have the time necessarily to do it all today. But I know that this has been, it seems like a real game changer for you, and you just touched on why, from the story in 2005 and losing both parents. I can't imagine the trauma that would bring, even though I can relate to it in a way, because my wife has a similar story of losing both of her parents in the same year. This was just 2016. And that, fog, it sounds like, I guess, for lack of a better word, that you were going through there for, sounds like, almost a decade. I'm sure people might not have known that, who knew you during that time frame, but it's awesome to see, how, as somebody who also, holds my faith as a very important principle in my life, I think God has a real purpose behind a lot of things and everything that happens to us, So when you go through a moment like that, what you've made that and how you've allowed that to shape who you are, as a man today, really speaks a lot to your character and your testimony. And God's used that, in many ways to influence a lot of people. So probably even more people than you realize. So yes. I applaud you for that.
And I believe every single human has the same story. People lose children, people lose limbs, people lose spouses. I mean, my problem that redirected my life was probably no different than most people. And the big takeaway I would want people to take is that it doesn't really matter what it is. If you're breathing, you've got value, and God has a purpose for you, because there are other people here on earth that need you, that need you to be the light. And that was inspiring, and that was that's still something that fuels me today.
All right, we're going to do a couple quick rapid fire questions just to, let some people know a little bit more about you. So number one, I know that you love to read and you've been involved in many events and seminars. Do you have a favorite book or author or event that you've attended that you feel like has made a huge impact on you?
I can't think of the events, but Hal Elrod. Right?
Hal Elrod, yeah.
The Miracle Morning, good one, great one. Jeff Olson, The Slight Edge.
Yeah. You're mentioning two of my favorites here, Bobby.
Another game changer. I think I've read that one 3 times.
Great book, yeah.
The Go-Giver, Bob, 2 authors. Pardon me, I've Read
Yeah,
them so long ago.
me too. I can't remember the name.
Go-Giver. It's a red book. I think they make a green one too. Bob something is one of the authors. And Robert Paolini's own Good Talk, Great Sales. I'm just kidding.
I was about to say, you got to throw that in there.
Mine is the shadow of a pinhead compared to those 3 books. But those are great. If someone were to read all 3 of those, having a little fire behind them for the push, I think those by themselves might do the rest of the pulling. Great books.
And you mentioned earlier that you read 2 books a month as kind of a habitual, is that generally some sort of business book or self-help development, or is there a particular type of books that you're into?
Well, I'm also not dabbling, but gearing up to get a degree in theology. So I do read theology books
cool.
as well. I mix that in there now. But the one I'm reading now by Ben Horowitz, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And it's a good book if you especially want to build a company to enterprise level. It's understanding, he speaks a lot about truth and overcoming hardships. But yeah, I literally, and one is usually audible, and then the other is written. I have to do both.
Gotcha. Do you have a favorite movie or TV show that's been cool for you, that you've been captivated by?
Well, my favorite movie, I think, of all time is still probably got to be Braveheart.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
Freedom! How could you go wrong with that?
I cry every time I watch that movie. It's just like I'm there, and it's just the most intense thing ever. And it's just a great theme of life. So Braveheart, favorite movie. Shows. What's the one where he's the soccer coach? Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso.
Me for drawing a blank. Ted Lasso is the man. He's like, if I was going to make a TV show, I'd want it to be I'd be just like that.
Yeah, I've only seen I never actually watched all the episodes, so I have seen snippets of it, but I've heard so many good things. I'll have to. I've been plowing through Suits right now on Netflix, and I've been really? Loving that show. It just connects with me in certain levels with the legal side and how the business minds work and so forth. So it's been interesting. But
I've never watched that, but I've heard of it.
It's been good. Yeah, you probably can get hooked to it. I know I've been hooked to it lately. But I couldn't agree more with you than on the Braveheart side. Favorite food?
Spaghetti and meat sauce.
Oh, of course.
Italian.
Yara Paolini.
Yes,
I understand.
And tacos and sushi.
Was your mom a great Italian cook?
Amazing. And my wife is, bar none, just like my mom, the best cook that I know.
Oh, wonderful.
Alive.
So next time, instead of going out to dinner with our wives, we might just have to go to your house and let Tika spill some magic out there.
You'd be coming over.
We'll bring the kids over, and they'll have a great time running around your pad, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. You're fine.
Couple last things here, Bobby, and I know that I appreciate you giving us some time here and carving this out to dive into your story this morning. One of the things I always love asking about is our legacies, right? And you think about at some point, when you're sitting on the rocking chair, sipping on your lemonade years from now and looking back possibly, what do you think is going to be the most important thing that you want to be remembered for from a legacy perspective, business or personal or both? What do you think that would be for you?
Wow, you are nailing them. It would to be that I made a difference, but not so much in business, or just even in family. You know as well as I do the story of King David, right? Mm-hmm. Had a great kingdom, but the infrastructure of the family paid the price. And my vision, my goal, would to create something outside of the family that is residual, that perpetuates, long after I'm gone, or even towards the end, but have a core strength in family. My wife, my children, being their leader, being there for them, and not turning away from the family, and appreciating them and honoring them and loving them at the same time. So that's really to learn from King David. Take care of the kingdom. And there's a man, I wish I could remember it. Sugar smacks. Proverbs 14. And forgive me, I'm paraphrasing, but it says to the degree, to a king, a kingdom is glory. But a kingdom without people is death to a prince. In other words, because he's next in line. If there's nothing for the next person, what good is it to be the king? What good is it to be the leader? So you want to build something and not just expect that they're going to be there. And you want the next generation, the generation after that, to be benefited whether they remember you or not. So family and life around you, if I'm in my deathbed and that's working, I'm ready.
You're ready to go. I love it. And I appreciate your example and your leadership. You've done a lot, even that people don't realize behind the scenes, I think, that help the agent community within Tampa Bay and beyond. And so the book is just one example of that. But I would encourage you to pick it up and take some of Bobby's wisdom from that. One thing that you mentioned, Proverbs, one of my favorite verses in the Bible is Psalm 90, verse 12, which talks about teaching us to number our days so that we can apply our hearts unto wisdom. And I think every time I connect with you, I feel like I walk away with like a nugget or something that just gets me to think a little deeper about my legacy and what I want to be about. And so I always appreciated that about our time together. And I'm going to end our podcast with a challenge that I always throw out. Before I do that, anyone who wants to reach out to you, Bobby, who just wants to pick your brain, talk to you more about your thought process, your business, what's the best way for someone to reach out to you?
Email, maybe? therealbowtiebobby@gmail.com. Pretty easy to remember, spelled out just like you would imagine. therealbowtiebobby@gmail.com. But joining forces with my good friend Jeff Borum, our office is in Oldsmar. Building a nice machine there that helps a lot of agents who otherwise would be struggling. But that's it. On Amazon.
Awesome. We will throw that up too on the description here for YouTube, up on the screen, so you'll be able to see Bobby's contact information if you'd like to follow up and pick his brain a little bit more. We end every episode the same way, and that is with a challenge to anybody who took the time to listen to the episode. Your time is valuable. And ultimately, take one action step from our conversation today that you think would allow you to move forward in a powerful direction for your life or for your business or for both. There's always at least one thing that you can grab from our conversation. Maybe it's just to pick up Bobby's book and place that order right now, right? Maybe it's to pick up one of the other books that either one of us has mentioned. Maybe you're somebody going through a challenge and you can take, a nugget from Bobby's story and you just have to take action with making that next phone call to somebody and having that tough conversation. Possibly it's diving into, what did I write down earlier? The now client, right? Identifying who that now client is, but that could be an action step for you. But if you don't take some action step, then sometimes we can forget the things that we really were inspired by during the course of the conversation. So take one thing, at least one, that you can do today that's going to help you grow your business, help you move forward in the direction you want personally. And if you do that, then the time you invested is going to be worth it in this podcast. So once again, thank you, Bobby, for being here. I love you, brother. And this will be a fun journey as we go through the rest of this year and beyond. And we will see you on the next episode of Tampa Bay Real Producers. See you later.